Jeff Marek, Monday to Friday with the sheet right here on the Daily Face-Off YouTube. Jeff, how you doing?
I'm good. Can I throw another name out at you for players that improve their stock during? There's a couple I want to throw in. This one may be, considering I believe there was interest from the Edmonton Oilers in previous seasons on this player. We'll get to him in a couple of seconds. I'll tell you what, man. Simon Nemec, his pairing with Martin Fehervary with Slovakia was outstanding. Like maybe one of the best pairs in the games. That's the guy the New Jersey Devils thought that they were getting when they drafted him second overall. And every game that he plays, and on the biggest stage against the biggest and best players in the world, I thought that Simon Nemec was outstanding. And how about Rasmus Ristolainen of the Philadelphia Flyers here, who had a really good tournament? And the last time I checked, Stan Bowman was in Milan as well, watching Ristolainen play. I don't know. I just thought those two specific. Listen, Jack Hughes did a wonderful job for himself as well, because a lot of questions going into the Olympics about what happened to Four Nations last year. Not suiting up for the Devils before the break, etc. But Nemec and Ristolainen for me would be the two that I would sort of lob out here to your viewers and listeners.
Well, I was going to say, Jeff, there would be a lot of GMs who saw, Tom Fitzgerald watching what Jack Hughes did and other guys who were like, boy, can't wait to see what they're going to do for me down the stretch. There were probably a lot of GMs who were watching their guys play going, not the cash register signs necessarily, but I can't wait to sell high.
Hey, speaking of managers that were there, I was having a good time. Every time that there was a cutaway to the to Team Canada managers box, I swear, through the entire tournament, and of course I say this tongue in cheek, Jim Nill was like a statue. He had the exact same pose. It's like he didn't move the entire tournament. Like if you told me that the Dallas Stars general manager was in that seat at that pose for the full 2 weeks at the Olympics, I would have said, yeah, because that's all we saw of Jim Nill. It was remarkable. It was the same pose, same chair, same everything, and Nill didn't budge every time the camera was on him. Anyway, one of those sort of goofy things that you watch when you have a 2-week tournament like the Olympics.
It's so funny because Doug Armstrong, when he's on the panel, he talked about we put the team together and then we just sit back and we don't get to play the game. The players play. Yeah. But I can't imagine the stress they're going through. And now the stress of getting back to the NHL season, the pressure that they're under now, you went from that break to now you have this small crunch time to the trade deadline to try to get stuff done. Who's the GM now that you think, when you look at these teams in the dogfight, who's under the most pressure?
Maybe Kyle Dubas to some extent. I mean, when you talk about cutaways to the manager's box and seeing who's looking at their national team and then also their club team as well, I can only imagine what's going through Dubas's mind when he sees Sidney Crosby from Team Canada go down, and also Sidney Crosby from his Pittsburgh Penguins go down, and what that is going to mean for their playoff push and playoff chase, etc. But I think as far as managers under pressure, look, I just mentioned Jim Nill's name, and I'll throw the Dallas Stars in there. This is another go-for-it season for the Dallas Stars. And, every year they're pushing their chips in. Time is now, window is open, all of it. They've let go of picks. They've let go of prospects. They still have a couple of both hanging around that they can use. I really get the feeling that, well, first of all, nobody loves, having, 6 and 7 defensemen, 12 of them for the playoffs, quite like Jim Nill. So I would expect Jim Nill to go and try to find about a million depth defensemen as well. But also, if there's a GM that's out there that's poised to take a massive swing, it's probably the Dallas Stars and Jim Nill. And if I'm looking at the landscape here, I'm probably looking at the Calgary Flames for Nazem Kadri. But that's not exactly a story, considering the Dallas Stars have been interested in Calgary with Nazem Kadri for quite some time now. But it very much feels like Nill's poised to take another massive swing again this year. But I don't think that he wants someone whose contract is going to expire at the end of the season. No more of the Granlunds. Hit a home run with Mikko Rantanen and re-signed him. I think if anything, he's probably swinging for players with term, and that's Nazem Kadri going away.
And again, with the way the market's kind of shaping up, there's a lot more teams who are in the buyers or standing pat sort of category than there are teams who are in the sellers category. And I think what that could lead to is it's either going to be I mean, it's not great considering we have a trade deadline show next Friday, but it's either going to be a boring deadline or we're going to get a couple of GMs who get really desperate and we see some jaw droppers.
Yeah. I think that managers want to get business done before the deadline, that they don't want the pressure of that deadline. They don't want the authority of the clock to sort of rule their roster construction, which is why I'm always curious about the weekend before trade deadline as well. And even the day before the trade deadline. The trade deadline is always going to have, like, and last year we had two whoppers really, Brad Marchand and Mikko Rantanen, but that's been rare the last few seasons. Mainly trade deadline has turned into tweak deadline and all the big moves are made before. But I still expect some whoppers here. I really do. I think St. Louis Blues are poised to trade some major pieces. And listen, I know we want to talk about the Florida Panthers here, so I might as well get to it. I really do wonder about what the Florida Panthers are going to do in a where we all know they've been riddled with injuries. Barkov being the big one, but we all know about Matthew Tkachuk at the beginning of the season and Seth Jones, and the goaltending hasn't exactly been great this year. Both Bobrovsky and Tarasov at the same time. So I would be curious to see what Bill Zito does here. If you read any military history books, they'll always tell you retreating can be an offensive posture too if you're still in the fight. And I don't think that anyone thinks that the Florida Panthers are not still in the fight. So I think that if they take a step back, it's not like we surrender, we're going to tear this thing down. I think a minor little retreat here by the Florida Panthers, and listen, Bill Zito's a wise general manager. I don't think that Bill Zito, is fooling himself about where this team is at and what it's going to take to get into a playoff spot. And I don't think that he's shy about saying, look, we're going to do a minor little retreat here. We're going to regroup and we're going to come back at this thing healthy next season. And we may look at, 3 Stanley Cups in 4 years as opposed to 3 in a row.
Yeah, I think it's more like just coming up for air almost, right? Like you've been in this compression of like so much hockey, right? You think the Oilers are going through it as well, right? Where now in the East, where it's at, I think you kind of get that, you have that leash to do it, right? You build on it. Now teams for me that don't have a leash are the Wings and the Sabres. It feels like more than ever, these teams have to make the playoffs or there's going to be God knows what goes down in those markets. What do they do sitting here looking at the East where it seems like there's a lot more parity compared to the West where it looks like the Central and the Oilers and Vegas, there's a lot more powerhouses?
Well, with the Buffalo Sabres, I mean, it's fascinating right now because the conversation revolves around Alex Tuch. It's sort of keeping what you have. And, we've heard Tuch say like, nothing right now with the contract. I'm just focused on this season, head down game by game, insert cliche here. Longer this thing goes on. And I had wondered whether the Buffalo Sabres would look at Alex Tuch and say, look, if we can't re-sign him, we can't let that asset, shake loose like Mitch Marner did from the Toronto Maple Leafs. We'll need to do something about that. But the further and deeper the Buffalo Sabres get here, entrenched in a playoff position, I really wonder if the Buffalo Sabres just say, even if we can't sign him, we got to keep him because we have to get into the playoffs. And Terry Pagula, the owner of the Buffalo Sabres, is desperate. The number 14 off the piece of paper that's staring in front of him right now, that they need to break that curse. I mean, since he bought the team, they haven't been in the postseason. I think he'd like to enjoy at least a couple of home dates here. As for the Detroit Red Wings, I know it's Steve Yzerman, and he's legend there, obviously, but I have a hard time believing that Chris Ilitch and the Ilitch family above him aren't placing the heat on. We don't even call the rink a new arena anymore. It's just a newish building that hasn't had any playoff dates. And we all know what happened last year between Dylan Larkin and Steve Yzerman, the chirping back and forth. Larkin saying you didn't give us any reinforcements, and Yzerman essentially saying, well, you didn't deserve any. The Detroit Red Wings this year deserve some reinforcements. So I think Dylan Larkin gets at least part of what he wants. Like, I don't think Steve Yzerman, goes crazy, even though he needs help both up front with the top 6 forwards and probably one more defenseman for the top 4. I can see Yzerman getting one. Probably not both. He's just not wired that way. He is still a very conservative and patient general manager, but it's no secret that Yzerman's been in the marketplace for both those two types of players. So I can see him being frisky come trade deadline time here too. And they were in the conversation, even though they didn't want to pay the price for Quinn Hughes, Rasmus Anderson, etc. So I think we know the direction Detroit is leaning on this one.
So how many teams do you think there are, and maybe if you have some examples too, like who truly don't know what they're going to do? Like there's 4 or 5 games for most of these teams before the trade deadline. Like does Washington know what they're going to do? Does Ottawa, Toronto,
so.
or are these teams who are like, you know what, if we go 5-0, maybe I'm going to change my mind?
I'll tell you what, can I make a point about Ottawa here? I know that it hasn't been the best of all possible seasons for Linus Ullmark. We understand that, and everything that's happened to him off the ice, we're all sympathetic towards. But if they get anywhere passable goaltending, we're not even having any question mark conversations about the Ottawa Senators. Like, we're talking about the Ottawa Senators, like who's going to win the Atlantic Division, either Tampa or Ottawa. So I think that, you're Steve Staios, you're saying, like, what more can we do here? I went out and got a Vezina Trophy goaltender. The roster is kind of set. Like, this roster is a winning roster. So, Ottawa is a fascinating team. I don't think we've given enough credit because he's kind of been a pinata for the past few seasons. I think we've given enough credit to Don Sweeney and what he's done with the Boston Bruins. I know that, it hadn't gone swimmingly the last couple of seasons, and everyone wondering about, the future of Don with the Boston Bruins, and here they are again battling for a playoff spot. And when you talk about players that got a lift from the Olympics, how good's Charlie McAvoy feeling about himself? Like last time we saw him before the Olympics, like he's got the full bubble on, he's getting elbows in the head, and face is all swollen. Now he's coming back with a gold medal and feeling great about himself. I think Boston's interesting. I don't know that Boston is aggressive with anything right now, though. And the Ottawa Senators may be one of the most frustrating teams to manage because so much good work has already been done. They just need a save more than anything else. You mentioned the Washington Capitals. I do wonder about Washington trying, and I've wondered about Jordan Kyrou fitting with the Washington Capitals here. Look, they were very much in the conversation last year for Nick Ehlers. It went right down to the wire between Washington and Carolina. Carolina offered the extra year, and they ended up getting the player. I don't think that means that Washington has stopped looking for someone to add a dimension of speed into the lineup. So I think that's probably a front burner issue here for Chris Patrick and the Washington Capitals. I do wonder about Los Angeles too. The loss of Kevin Fiala is massive, and I don't think that they want Anze Kopitar to end his career in the regular season like Trevor Linden did. I think they want him to end his career in the playoffs, not the regular season, not game 82.
The most insane stat that I can find in the NHL is the Ottawa Senators being 9th most actual goals against, 2nd best expected goals against. Like, that is just, it's mind-blowing to think how much goaltending has let them down. Hey, hockey fans, if you enjoyed that video, then make sure you hit the subscribe button right here on the Daily Faceoff YouTube. We have you covered for everything you need. Exclusive interviews on The Sheet with Jeff Marek, all the latest hockey news on Daily Faceoff Live, and you can always get your morning started with Johnny Lazarus and Colby Cohn on Morning Cup of Hockey. Don't miss a minute. Hit that subscribe button.